So if it comes through, we can approve it, and hopefully that
And
will.
how do I do that? How does someone do that?
So you
People
can
who
go.
are watching, they will know.
Yeah, so you can go onto the website. There is a permit request to, I believe it's the same form to both remove and replace a tree. So it's kind of a blanket tree request for something that's in the right of way. And then that will come through to us and we can approve it. And, you know, hopefully with the sunny side, we can kind of push it further to the city and say it's approved. You know, there is work that needs to be done. And hopefully that gets it far enough that the city feels comfortable to contract it out. But
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I feel feel the pain and the ambiguity here, but you know. So that's that's our stuff on Title 33. We don't have anything pending for Title 37 cases. One thing that did come up, I believe this might have been Monday. There is a tree potentially in the right of way on 4 Cook Drive. This is like East State, and back to the north a road. So it's kind of like a little loop that goes along the back of it, where like First National Bank or something is. There is a basically dead silver maple. Has like the first leader has snapped and basically the entire stump is exposed. So it's kind of hanging on, but the folks were asking to remove it. Their estimates are that it is out of the city right of way. It's pretty small, but they are doing water line maintenance or something. So they asked, our permission. Basically, Andy Stone asked, if we concur with removing it. Seemed pretty obvious to me. It's an easy case of removing, and it might not be in the right of way anyway. So that's all we have for maintenance, and then new business. So some little plugs here while I have our captive audience. We have 3 potential tree plantings that are going to happen here in November. We are approving. Oh, actually, I did not put that on approval. We still have to go through that. So Jen Bowman has submitted a planting request to plant in on the east side park. So this would be basically behind Walmart, in between Walmart and the bike path. They did this, I think, last year or 2 years ago as well, and they're kind of adding on to it. I think they have listed on here about 20 to 25 trees. There is a map here of what they're planning to plant: persimmons, elderberries, swamp white, fig, mulberry. Basically a lot of fruit and nut trees. And I think it's a no-brainer, and since it is on city property, we have to approve it. So, does anybody have any notes on that?
I think this looks great. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. Can I get a motion to approve that request?
Motion.
And a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So now that it's permitted, there will be a planting November 1st, Saturday, November 1st. Do you know the time on that, Gene?
Not yet. I don't know if it's been set.
Yeah, I think it might be probably 11 a.m.
Probably be in the morning, yeah.
Okay. But we will be asking for volunteers if anybody wants to show up to that and help us put in some trees behind Walmart. We also have a kind of more TBD one.
10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I think they will probably have the tools and stuff there. So show up with your arms. And then we also have from Mary. Mary shared this, I think, earlier this week. Is he an OU student? An OU student, Sam Gutenkast, that's planning to do also a planting on the west side. I believe in the West Side Park.
Several locations.
Okay. But it's still a little TBD. That might be November 2nd, which would be a Sunday. Might be November 9th, which is also a Sunday. Might be November 8th. We'll see. Hopefully we can have some more info out on it. And before we get into our big piece here about the code change, I will plug that the city is also doing a planting at the around the new outdoor gym behind the new firehouse along Stimson. So we will, that is part of our Arbor Day celebration that we are required to do as a member of the Tree City USA program. So the mayor will be there, read a proclamation about how we are a tree city, and we will be planting in about 30 trees along there, and then variously kind of in a little green space across on the other side of the bike path. So that should be planned out. We should have pilot holes. It should be relatively light work. So everybody, feel free to come volunteer for that. Should be a little bit lighter, maybe a little more of a celebration, but we'll need some volunteers and some folks for that as well.
Time on that, Tristan?
That will be 11 a.m. And that will be the Saturday after the planting behind Walmart.
November 8th.
November 8th.
What species will be planted?
It's kind of various. I don't have it in front of me. I think there's it's kind of a wetland area, so we're putting in some birch and some. I don't think we put in swamp white oak. We have some black walnuts that we're planting in. I put together the list, but I don't have it in front of me. So it'll be pretty various, but they are shade trees because it's up against the bike path. So the black walnuts will be away from the bike path, and we're hoping to have I think there's some dogwood, some smaller trees kind of in front of it, and then lining along as it goes out.
We're wrapping it around too, right? It's kind of like an L.
Yeah, so this will go from, there's a red wing blackbird art piece that's been installed as a part of that, the firehouse building. So we'll go basically from that all around, and then there is kind of a wander path that goes off from the bike path over towards the library, and it will basically go from there, kind of wrap around, and then there will be that extra little spot where there's a pelican piece of art that we'll have a couple trees to plant in as well. So kind of lining along there. And then finally, for our last piece here, the code change. So if folks have been following along here, the city and the Planning Commission kind of suggested some code changes that they want to put forward to council. I believe that happened in maybe May, and we've kind of gone back and forth on it. In short, it's hard to get in short because it's quite a lot of changes, but there are a handful of changes that the Tree Commission put forward initially, and they stapled on quite a few changes that the city would like to see as well. So it would call for invasives on a property to be citable, changes to the current pollinator program to get away from the $20 application fee. What else is there? A couple little other changes, but then the primary thing that the city wants to see out of this is a removal on this approval power from the Shade Tree Commission and handing it over to the Planning Commission. In addition to that, in their initial and their second draft of these changes, they also wanted to reduce the planting requirements on new building from, I don't know, it's about 1,700, every 1,700 square feet or so, they are required to plant in 1 large or 2 medium-sized shade trees, and they will be reducing that to about a third of that to 1 tree every 4,500 square feet that's developed. There's also some changes with planting a row of landscaping in front, kind of some various changes. Our big bone to pick with it is obviously we are, a volunteer, board lined with expertise that the Planning Commission might not necessarily have, and having us as a stopgap to make sure that we are looking at these new developments, making sure that they are following these shade tree requirements, and having us as a part of that process is very important to us. And I think could best be done by the Shade Tree Commission. That is only looking at this narrow piece as it comes through. And so I think kind of in general, we disagree with the loss of the approval process. And then very, very upset with the slashing of planting requirements. It was a little galling to me personally that they used the 40% canopy coverage that the city's executive plan is, the sustainability plan is shooting for, and dropping it back very, very far with some interesting math. So we, this last week, sent out an email kind of outlining the holdups that we have on that, why we are opposing those code changes. And I believe yesterday we got a response with a new set of code changes. So some good news in that, the kind of the initial promise of the loss of the approval process is that instead of developers having to come into this room and show us their plans and us approving, and getting a chance to talk with them, the city was offering that we would come in at the beginning in this kind of amorphous, what they call the preliminary exam. So if a developer wants to come into the city, they have to submit, so many copies of what they're planning to develop to the city administration. And then they were saying, when that happens, we will also ask for your input from the Shade Tree Commission. We have not had great back and forth with the city, kind of in the Shade Tree Commission's history. So leaves it very open for us to be left out of the process, to be ignored, or to be consulted maybe one day before these
The morning of.
the morning of these things coming up, and us not having time to look them over or whatever, what have you. So, that was another big issue that we brought up. So now in these response code changes that will probably be brought up next week from the Planning Commission, or maybe even next week at City Council, basically they scrapped all of the reduction in planting requirements. So it will stay as is. The much higher planting densities that are currently required will stay. There is a little bit of change to, this weird piece in the code that requires a new development has to have so big of a landscaping barrier, and that these can't be counted as shade trees. So kind of some arcane stuff that getting away with it, I think, gives a little more freedom to the developers in a good way, in that they don't have to have this 8-foot deep landscaping bed, usually full of boxwoods, in front of every building that gets built. So that is some good changes, but they also are still really sticking to the shade tree should not have this approval process. They did add in some spots where in the code we must be consulted before approvals go through. Basically just adds in the word Shade Tree Commission into that process. So at least we are in the process, but still kind of leaves all the same concerns of us being left out or consulted very late in the game. And so that is kind of our update and where things stand. So does Anybody have any comments?
I have some questions.
Yeah, let's hear from the audience here.
So, yeah, I find this quite disturbing, obviously. And, most recently, there have been buildings built without seemingly addressing any kind of landscaping and code, such as the new Chipotle and Starbucks. We can also look at the university's HTC or center. That's pretty shocking. And then, and the Gershon Green. So, I mean, we're seeing really extreme limitations in adhering to this code. I think it's Title 47, is that what it is?
Title 41.
41. And then, so that's my first question, and I'm asking you simply because you're the only one I can ask, right? That might respond to me. I'd also like to suggest that if they do have some landscaping requirements, that they include natives rather than those boxwoods, right? Like that little area in front of Starbucks, that could be a beautiful pollinator area and could put some native trees in, and so there'd be some life happening there instead of what's there right now.
Boxwoods, usually.
I didn't look. And then my other question is about how the city is complying with their designation as Tree City USA.
Yeah.
So,
I can take basically all of those, I think. Kind of going in reverse order. The Tree City USA stuff is a little murky on, technically the city just has to have a shade tree commission. Removing our approval power does not necessarily mean that we don't qualify for that anymore. I do think it's clearly in the wrong direction for a city that is priding itself on, being a leader of, caring for the urban canopy and making trees a priority in its planning. So by removing a volunteer board who are overseeing these new developments and that they're done in the best way possible, definitely works a little bit against us in what we're
Not
proclaiming.
reappointing anyone onto the board.
Yeah, so there's also another point that has come up that the mayor is refusing to reappoint or appoint any new members to the commission until these code changes are met to whatever degree that they want to feel.
Which could lose Tree City because there would be no board.
Yes. So we currently have 4 of 5 on our commission. There are technically 7 seats, 2 alternate positions. But, one of our seats is going to be up for reapproval in February. And if this does drag out into February and the mayor is still adamant about not reappointing anybody, if we only have 3 members, we do not have a quorum and we will not be able to operate anymore, which does put us at risk and in general of having Tree City USA funding. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Carrie Gibbons, 31st Street, and I have to get off my chest a few thoughts about the benefits to the community of a healthy tree canopy. From a community benefit standpoint, I believe it is in those interests that a fully capable shade tree commission must be supported. They need to retain the ability to be a check over development designs that would add additional unnecessary impermeable surfaces or skimpy and default planting plans that do not meet the important needs that healthy trees provide, such as reducing toxic stormwater runoff, reducing heat island impacts and provide shade, retaining soil cover and reducing erosion, elevating moisture through transpiration and sequestering carbon. Not to mention promoting bird populations that can help keep things like mosquitoes down. Athens administration priorities need to increase balance rather than decrease balance. Where are we? The long-term benefits of a healthy urban canopy throughout the city should not be underestimated or short-shifted in favor of business and revenue opportunities. I have a lot more to say, but I'll leave it all at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Yeah, anybody else?
Once again, Amy Delich, and I am the chair of the Athens Environment and Sustainability Commission. And so, as you mentioned before, Athens does have some fairly robust sustainability goals. And one of those goals, in addition to tree canopy and livability, we have a goal of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. We had a greenhouse gas inventory done in 2019, and we actually did very, very well. We had the lowest greenhouse gas emissions per capita of any city in Ohio. We were actually more on par with Europe than most other American cities. And one of the reasons that we did so well is because of the role that our local tree canopy played in sequestering our emissions. So it is critically important that we maintain and enhance the health of that tree canopy in order to continue doing our part to reduce our emissions. We are hoping to have another greenhouse gas inventory done in 2026, so we'll be able to compare our progress to 2019. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, come on up.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Ammon. I've been trying to keep up with the agenda for the city council because I understood that they were the ones to make the decision. I did talk to, or the secretary left a message on my voicemail today saying that it won't be discussed next week. So I wanted to let everybody know that. I don't know when it'll be discussed, but
It will or will not?
it will not.
Oh,
So I was going to send you a message.
you can maybe talk into it.
It will not be next week. They said maybe the 24th, but I'm going to keep badgering her to let me know the schedule. It's usually announced the Thursday before the meeting. And I was wondering, besides going to the city council meeting, who else or what other meetings do you think would be helpful for us to go to if we're opposed to their planning? Should we go to the planning commission meetings or?
Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge, this will, and I had heard talk that it may be introduced at this next city council on Monday or on Tuesday because Monday's a holiday. If it is not going to be introduced or brought up at that meeting, my understanding is that it was going to be brought up and voted on and brought to council from Planning Commission. So the Planning Commission meeting will be next Wednesday at noon right here. So they will be discussing if they even want to bring it to council to vote on this and kind of talk it through. So that would be probably the predecessor before this goes in front of city council. So if you feel strongly about it one way or the other, I would suggest you show up to that. And then probably the week after, I think you said the 24th, that is probably when I would expect it to be in front of city council.
Yeah, she did say that it had to go back to the planning commission, so thank you.
Yeah.
Jeanette.
Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing I will say too, the city, in addition to kind of, saying that they will not reappoint or reapprove, people sitting on this council until this is figured out, they've also kind of given us a deadline that they want this done by the end of October. So this getting in front of, it's all kind of hitting their timeline very closely. I'm not sure why they have such a tight deadline on this very diverse number of changes to city code, that it must be done by the start of November. It may have something to do with folks being reappointed to city council on November 4th or whenever. So this is a big package that is being pushed through pretty quickly through City Hall, and it has changed very significantly since yesterday. So, Mary, you want to say something else?
Yeah, hi again. I'm Mary Reed, 83 Maplewood Drive. In addition to being a citizen, I'm a member of the Athens Arbor Day Committee, and the Athens Arbor Day Committee exists to plant trees with public benefit in the city of Athens. Everyone in this room or watching, you can please follow us at facebook.com/Athens Arbor Day Committee. We try to keep people apprised of tree plantings and other things that are happening in the city. We reformed as an organization in 2017, and the first couple of plantings we did actually really went fine. Someone had previously mentioned Ron Lucas was somebody at the city who it was part of his job. We had someone we could contact when we wanted to do some plantings. We would meet up, we'd get approvals, and it was pretty straightforward. But after that position was eliminated or shifted, I'm not sure what happened, we really haven't had anyone at the city like you have been talking about tonight as a good point person. And we've been trying to work with the Shade Tree Commission, which has actually had a lot of turnover in those years, and you're talking about the potential for yet more turnover. That's not helpful either, but I do want to commend this particular iteration of the Shade Tree Commission. You guys have done a great job. We've been able to really work effectively together as two organizations to try to get some things done. And I will repeat what maybe someone said or maybe didn't. We have at least 2 certified arborists on this Shade Tree Commission, and I'm not sure we have anyone in the city administration who has those kind of qualifications. I don't think we do. So our communications with the city have been very difficult outside of this group, and I don't see giving the approval for development landscaping requirements to another commission that already has plenty on its plate really in improving any of these issues that we're talking about here that have come up tonight. I see them only making that worse. And if anything, I think oversight should be increased. I think the Shade Tree Commission and or the city should be able to do a better and more comprehensive job of not only looking at these developments before they begin, but looking at them after they're finished. Some people already discussed incidents we've all seen in the city of trees being removed, not replaced, nothing happening to begin with. I think of an uptown development that went in a few years ago. True to the ordinance, they planted the required number of shade trees, and about a year later, those shade trees came out and were replaced with shrubs because there was no ongoing oversight. So I think this is going in the opposite direction we need to go in. So I'm here and will continue to be here to support the Shade Tree Commission and the oversight component. And like I said, you can go to facebook.com/Athens Arbor Day Committee. Try to keep updated on this as well as the planting, so the information that's on the agenda will be there. And I've already uploaded information about the tree talk, but I assume you guys are going to discuss that?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Mary. Any other comments?
Hello, everyone. My name is Molly Jo Stanley. I am at 13255 Liars Corner Road, so not actually a resident of the city of Athens. I'm in Athens County, but I serve on the Environment and Sustainability Commission with Amy. And I also want to acknowledge your really important and great work. I completely understand that capacity and funding are challenges that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis, and our city is no different. And so that is one reason that I think it's really important to lean on a volunteer commission of experts who are really passionate about helping the city to maintain its canopy and meet our goals. Amy mentioned the greenhouse gas inventory. And speaking of capacity and funding, Power Clean Future Ohio is the organization that helped the city complete that greenhouse gas inventory in 2019. And they've reached out to the city to provide that updated greenhouse gas inventory. And alongside that, are offering a tree canopy assessment. And so I'm just going to read what little I have about what that entails. But Power Clean Future Ohio, PCFO, also provides baseline data to understand a community's current tree canopy coverage and the impact on carbon storage and sequestration. PCFO's senior energy policy advisor and certified city planner partners with PCFO staff to deliver high-resolution satellite imagery, mapping and analysis of the current tree canopy, its emissions mitigation, and additional co-benefits to the community in terms of public health and resilience. And as Amy mentioned, our tree canopy was one of the main reasons that we scored so high on the 2019 greenhouse gas inventory. And as you know, all the work you've done to put together a grant proposal that would help the city's tree canopy assessment and our master plan for the tree canopy, this would be an incredible benefit to that. And my understanding is that the reason that we haven't moved forward with PCFO's offer is a time and capacity issue at the city again. So I think that losing sight of the fact that not only do we have a great tree commission that wants to continue to volunteer its time to provide the city valuable resources, but there's also outside organizations that want to provide free services that would help the city achieve its sustainability goals and care for its tree canopy, is something that we need to take into consideration. So I appreciate everyone being here and the administration and the Planning Commission thinking about all of this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Molly. Any other comments?
Do you have anything you want to say?
I have a very general comment.
Go for it.
I want to thank everyone for coming here and supporting the words, listening. It means a lot. I do wish more city members were here and Planning Commission, so I hope they tune in and listen to the minutes after. We really appreciate you all coming out. Biggest group we've ever had.
Yeah.
Totally.
Normally it's an empty, so it's my fault.
One or two. But it means a lot.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that I'm really grateful to all of you coming out tonight. This is incredible. It feels really good to have your support. I have a few thoughts. A lot of it's kind of reiterating what folks in the crowd have said tonight. I am grateful for the city reconsidering the planting requirement changes. I think that's really important for a few reasons. We need to be planting more trees, obviously, but also that those planting requirements are bringing in quite a bit of funding to our tree bank. For developers who can't plant that many trees, they have to pay that amount into the tree bank. So that allows us to plant trees elsewhere, pay for tree care services, stump grinding, whatever it is. So that's a benefit, a net benefit to the city. I personally still don't understand why these code changes require the Shade Tree Commission to lose approval authority. As far as I know, we haven't had any complaints from developers about the process so far. In my time here, I've been on the commission for 2 years. I think we've had 3 or 4 developers come through this process, and we've approved all of them. There's been no back and forth. There's been no argument. We've given our feedback. They've taken it, and they've planted the things that we requested them to plant. We've successfully prevented the planting of non-native trees and shrubs on multiple occasions. And the way it stands now, having the approval authority gives the city our sustainability goals some teeth. If we were just an advisory committee, there would be no incentive to follow our recommendations. I think somebody mentioned the Chipotle Starbucks development. We weren't involved in that process at all. And that's with having approval authority. So if we don't have approval authority, where in the process are we going to be consulted? We've been shown time and again that we're not going to be consulted. So that's our biggest hang up with letting that approval authority go. We know our city's canopy is in decline, and we know that trees are the cheapest and most effective way to build climate resilience and reduce carbon emissions. So we should be strengthening our tree canopy management tools and not weakening them. This is a step in the wrong direction, like Mary said. The city administration has stated on multiple occasions that they're making these changes to reduce barriers to development. Like I mentioned earlier, we haven't had any pushback, and I would really like some specific examples cited from the city administration when we got in the way of development. If there are specific examples that you could cite, that would be really helpful for learning and growing from the experience and maybe being a better tree commission. But if there aren't any specific examples, then I'd like to know why that's being used as the reason for making these changes. And as Ann Bonner, our regional urban forester, has said many times, development and ecological health don't have to be antagonistic. We can come up with creative ways to maintain and expand our canopy while also supporting the city's economic goals. These aren't mutually exclusive. And finally, this whole situation has prompted concern from me and people in the community that I've spoken to about overreach from the city administration, consolidation of power. It's not lost on me that these changes would essentially codify all development approval authority under the mayor's office. That doesn't sound very democratic to me. I think that we should have checks and balances, and we should have multiple commissions involved in that process. This doesn't need to be a city admin versus tree commission issue. I think that we can collaborate in good faith. I was really upset when I heard that the mayor would not be reappointing or appointing any new members to the commission. That to me feels like a disservice to everyone who's putting their time and energy into this commission, and anybody in the community who would potentially want to volunteer their time. I think we should be supporting and cultivating that energy and not telling people not to try. So I'm opposed to the changes as they are. I'm hoping that we can collaborate with the city on something better. And ultimately, I hope that we can come up with some sort of plan that creates a permanent urban forestry department here in the city that can address all of these issues full time and really have a point person or point organization on these issues. So thank you all for being here. Grateful.
Yeah. Thank you for wrapping it all kind of nicely up in a bow there, Gene. There's a lot of moving parts to this, and it's been very fluid. Even like I said, the last code change package was brought to us yesterday. So clearly, it's not clear what this will look like, and I think that pressure from citizens and interested people in the city is going to be key to, this is a key time to air your voice and, for us to have a very concrete win on, making this a tree-friendly city. So again, thank you all for your time.
Can I ask an interest?
Yeah.
Yeah, echoing, again, thank you all for coming and being here. I'm the elected official on the dais in this case. I was appointed to Tree Commission, which makes me the least smart person in the room. But I would say that this is also the thing I think I've heard most about in my time on council. That includes all the very big headline grabbing things that we've done, which tells me that folks really care. If you do really care, everybody in this room is already convinced. So please carry forward, show up at other things and talk to the people that aren't. Tell other people that might wish to come. Because again, we can say whatever from the dais here, but a board effectively does need members, and those sort of things. So if this is something you truly care about, please continue to speak to other people not on this dais. Again, I've gotten so many emails and many of the times it's like, yes, I too agree, because I'm here. So please, my point is, show up to things. There are public speaking times at the end of council usually, or designated times. Yeah. So, thank you all so much.
Yeah.
Jeanette Ammon again. Is there a way or place we can see the new updates that they presented? So I can talk to people.
Yes,
about-
so it will probably be in the minutes for this meeting.
I'd imagine they'll bring it up at the planning commission as well.
Yeah, so,
Well, I want to tell people before the planning commission so I
Yeah.
can tell them what,
Right.
they'll know what to talk about. Because if we're complaining about the old changes, then they're,
Sure.
yeah.
yeah,
We can get that information to
yeah,
you.
I think putting it up on the minutes for this meeting will probably
Okay.
be the easiest. Again, I did not have this until
Okay.
yesterday, so it did not make it into the agenda. So I will submit it as the meetings for the minutes for this meeting. That will be available on the Athens city website. If you go to Planning Commission, there will be a little thing at the bottom that says,
When do you think that will be, since the meeting's Wednesday?
hopefully, that's
Or could you just send me an email?
Yeah, I
Or-
think we can get you the information otherwise, outside of just the minutes.
yeah. Obviously, if anyone's interested in seeing a copy of this, obviously come up to me after this, and I
Okay.
can just
Thank you.
send it over to you guys. Yeah, come on up.
Just a couple of points. One is I live on Elmwood, which is one of the more densely treed neighbor streets. And I've lived there for 22 years, and I've seen the trees grow. I've seen a few die. We only have one elm left. But that street is so used. I can barely get out my front door without having to talk with someone or being accosted by a dog. It is constant. And every street should be like that. The literature supports the importance of trees for human and climate health and so many things. The literature is extensive on this. It's been going on since the 70s or something. So this is something that our city, a city that, and other cities in Ohio are doing it, should embrace. And we should follow the science and the literature. And it would help economically. It helps with health. There are so many reasons to have a good tree canopy. So I think that it's really important that our city address this, and that as citizens we address it, that we don't just accept their decisions on this, because it's really critical. And I would like every household to have a tree in front of their house, so it's cooling it. And our street is cooler than other streets in my neighborhood. So I've done a lot of assessments on the trees in the neighborhood. So
That's all right. Yeah, just briefly, one more thing. There are some community members organizing a tree talk on Monday, October 20th at the community center from 6 to 8 p.m., and there are some flyers up here for that. We'll have a few experts speaking. Ann Bonner, our own Mary Reed, and Dr. Glenn Matlack from Ohio University. So we're hoping to get feedback, come with questions and ideas for supporting our urban canopy. Yeah, come up to me after the meeting if you have any questions about that. Thanks.
Yeah, and to really put a nail on this, because I'm bad at stopping talking, but a couple more points before we get out of here to kind of take home with us. One, obviously, you guys can look around and see the importance of, what being in person at one of these events is like. City council, planning commission, these things that meet up here, a lot of things come the day before, 2 days before, and what happens in that room and people coming up and saying things in the moment is extremely powerful. One of the main reasons that I really do not like the idea of, obviously us being cut out of the process, but having developers come in here and have to have some FaceTime and talk to people that are, interested and have thought specifically about the trees and the environmental impact that their development is going to have is really useful. It might not always be as impactful sometimes as we want it to be, but it's a huge part of the process, and probably in some cases, one of the few times that people think about it. So having this in-person piece is a very key aspect to changing people's minds and affecting how things come about. And you really would be hard pressed to find anybody in the city that is against having trees. One thing before we go, just to kind of get people's hackles up, one of the things that is still in this code change is that manufacturing will be exempt from all of these shade tree requirements.
What was that?
Manufacturing developments will be exempt from all of these. Obviously, the city has an incentive to want manufacturing jobs here, but in this day and age, if you look around, one of the big manufacturing developments that come to small towns like ours and have a big impact are data centers. So not that this has come up, but this does set kind of a bad precedent, and this is a piece that they were unwilling to part with. So this is still on these code changes. Development like that is typically the most impactful. They're usually very large clearings. They are going to contribute the most to this change in the urban canopy. And typically they will use the entire lot space that they have. So even under current regulations, at the very least, what we get out of that is they pay into our management and future plantings in the city through the tree bank. So exempting folks from that will basically just be leaving money on the table for the city. So that's one thing to kind of keep in mind as these still come through. The city has been flexible and has been, somewhat accommodating in our big red flags on these code changes, and that's one that they did not change. So again, if you are interested in these code changes and tracking how they come, the next meeting will be next Wednesday at the Planning Commission at noon in this room right here, and then it will likely make its way to City Council the following Monday at 7. Is that when they meet? 7 p.m. So keep track of that as it moves through the City Council. It is read 3 times, so there should be plenty of chances for people to give input.
So based on that calendar, I think that's going to end up being the same night as the tree talk, that it comes before council. So that might be
I believe the 20th is a committee meeting,
okay.
and the 27th is a general session.
Yep. So it's been a lot of talking and hopefully some good camaraderie, if nothing else. But that's all we've got on the agenda. Is there anything anyone else would like to say?
Thank you.
One last question. Is it more impactful to go to the planning commission meeting or the city council meeting?
It's a good question. If it is, so my last watch of the planning commission, there are 5 members of the planning commission. 1 is the mayor, 1 is the service safety director. The other 3 are appointed by the mayor, and they did not seem completely swayed or to understand what these code changes were. So it could be very impactful to show up at that and keep this from getting in front of city council at all. Obviously, if you can't make that, noon on a Wednesday is kind of hard to pencil in for a lot of people. I think I will be there. I'm planning to be there and give my 2 cents on the matter. But the more people to come up, obviously, is more impactful. And then should it still move from planning commission to council, we will need support there as well. Yeah.
So we're having a back and forth conversation here, and I like that, but when I come to council, I don't see that happening. If I come to the planning commission, would I be able to ask them a
Typically, yes. They,
You should repeat the question to the microphone.
yeah, so she asked, there's not always a lot of back and forth at the city council meetings. She asked if there would be a little more of a back and forth at the planning commission meetings. It's usually has more time. They are, city council has a lot of things that they cover every single night. Not attention grabbing things, but even on a boring night, it usually takes about an hour for them just to work through things without comment. So they are usually a little tighter on folks coming up and talking. They have a 3 minute time limit for a lot of times. We are very, very easygoing here. The planning commission is, from my watching history of seeing how they work, it seems like they're a little more open, like here as well. But it would be going up and kind of giving your input, and they may not take comment until right before they vote. So,
Still worth it though.
yeah. So you can only know when you show up. So let me know. But if that is all the comments from everybody, that's all we've got tonight. So if nothing else, can I get a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, everybody. We will see you hopefully at a meeting soon.